This is what I wore to church up until I was roughly 15 or 16 years old. I grew up in the Mennonite community and I never had a normal high school experience. I had a full-time job the entire time and attended night classes twice a week and then homeschooled myself through the rest of it. It's come to my attention that a lot of you don't know who Mennonites are or where they came from or anything about their culture. So I'm going to give you a brief little history lesson today. Amish religion was actually started around 136 years after the Mennonite religion. Unlike the Amish, Mennonites are not prohibited from using motorized vehicles or electricity or phones, while Amish communities only use buggies for transportation and are strictly no electricity, no vehicles or anything like that. Mennonite weddings are extremely plain. There's no music, no decorations, no bridal party, no ring bearer, no flower girls, there's no walking the bride down the aisle, there's no kissing the bride, and you have to wear black clothing to get married. In the traditional Mennonite churches, not the other ones. So basically every time I asked my parents growing up why we have to get married in black, this is what they said. When Mennonites first migrated to Russia, their colony expanded very quickly, almost outnumbering the Russians, and the Russians became intimidated by this and made a new law stating that Mennonites were no longer allowed to marry within their own community. They had to marry a Russian to try and control the spread of the Mennonite population, I guess. And since marrying outside of the Mennonite community was against their beliefs, the Mennonites would gather in a cemetery and disguise their weddings as funerals, wearing black clothing. And this is how they were able to still get married during this time. I'm not sure if this is true. That's why I call it the Mennonite myth. But it's a good story. Just for you, I went back and counted. The number is actually smaller than I thought it would be, but I have 92 first cousins. I have family in Seminole, Texas, and Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. I'd say about 75% of them live in Ontario where I live, so I know them very well. I know all their names, but we don't see each other very often. I'd say a couple times a year. Family gatherings are enormous, to say the least. I want to give you guys a more accurate idea of what I looked like going to church up until I was 16 years old. Old Colony Mennonite head coverings are always black, and they're meant to be worn immediately after marriage. I find with the newer generation and the younger newlyweds, they typically wear smaller head coverings, and this is what those head coverings look like. In the older generation, like our mothers and our grandmothers, they wear larger head coverings. This is what the larger ones look like. They'll usually pin them up with some bobby pins to keep them in place, and they normally tie it behind their ears, under their hair, or sometimes the older generation, I know my grandmother, she wore hers tied around her chin. Women in the Old Colony Mennonite culture will also wear a larger head covering that's tied underneath their chin on top of their marriage head covering for church only.
Oh my god, I think it's incredible to learn about different religions. I've never heard of that religion before, and the uniqueness of, when they were in Russia, and because they weren't allowed to marry their own colony, they had to wear black, so like a funeral. I just think it's insane, and I don't really know what else to say on it, to be honest. I think it's just really unique. That's the word, I think, unique. It didn't start that long ago, 136 or 139 years ago, did she say? So still, it doesn't seem that long ago. That's less than 150 years ago. I think still, about 1880 or something, 1890. So still, it doesn't seem that long ago. And I think, by the looks of it, it has progressed very drastically. She doesn't go to church anymore, she had to homeschool herself, she had to work full-time jobs. And the headscarves as well, they've changed, they've shrunken. But yeah, that was really fascinating to learn. I genuinely have never had that religion before. I think it's very crazy how there's different aspects of their life that is very different to ours. So, I don't know if that, excuse me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if it was this religion she was in or the other one. That's quite similar to theirs, but no electricity, that use buggies as well, which is insane. You think now how advanced our world is, you do rely on a lot of transport, especially when you go to America. There's lots of states that are very far. When I was in New Jersey, there was one part of town, then you had to get a car to the other part of town. You couldn't walk it. And I think that's insane. And weddings as well, you're not allowed to walk down the aisle, you're not allowed to have music, no ring bearers, no flower girls. Very minimalistic, to say the least. I'm not too sure what else to say on that, to be honest, but the dresses as well, very formal. It's very Mormon as well, covered on the chest, very long past their knee, to their arms. It's very respectable clothing attire that women have to wear, I guess. And it was nice to see how she styled, the coverings. And she briefly described how the old generation would wear it down their chin, and then going to church were 2 as well. That was really interesting to learn. But yeah, I just think it's really fascinating how different religions live life, I guess, and respect and their values and how they grow up and their, I don't want to say rules because I don't know if that's the right word, but you know, she has to homeschool herself. You know, not many children can homeschool themselves. It's just very different, isn't it? Very fascinating. I love a good history about religion. I love religious history. I think it's so fascinating. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have a look into this religion, see what else they how they live and stuff. Yeah.